Hey, good morning. I'm Dr. Steve Stites, Chief Medical Officer here at the University of Kansas Health System. Welcome back to Open Mics with Dr. Stites. One of the best things we could do for children is teach them how to eat well and stay active. We want those healthy habits to start young and follow our children into adulthood. But why just teach our kids? Wouldn't it be better to teach kids and their parents? That's the idea behind a first-of-its-kind study led by the University of Kansas Medical Center. Today, we'll learn about what's being taught to kids and their parents in an effort to curb the obesity epidemic. We'll hear from a mom and explain what it's like being on the receiving end of those lessons. And we'll ask if we should change the way we talk about obesity and about food. But first, let's do morning rounds. The summer heat wave is here. If you're spending time outside, please stay hydrated. One of my patients got admitted yesterday with dehydration. So, for this week, the health system has treated at least 12 people for heat-related issues. So take care of yourself and your kids. And get rid of your cough. I don't have COVID, but I do have reflux sometimes. Hey, we're talking with Dr. Sean Sood, a pediatric critical care physician here in our health system. Dr. Sood, children and babies especially are more vulnerable to heat stress. Talk to us about why that is.
Dr. Stites, thanks for having me on this morning. So first of all, kids are different than adults. They generate more heat than adults do. They just have a higher baseline metabolic rate than adults do. Second of all, kids have a smaller body mass to surface area ratio than adults do, and so they're more predisposed to heat-related illnesses and injuries. And last of all, kids have less sweat glands and produce less sweat than adults do. So all three of these reasons, kids have a higher risk factor to have heat-related illnesses than adults do.
And when they're young, they can't go get water and fluids, right? Somebody's got to help bring it to them.
Correct.
That's
and so, like you said, hydration is paramount.
You know, I didn't tell you. Okay, I really am not sick. I didn't say enough to you, but you've been on this program before, back in the height of COVID, so welcome back.
Thank you. Thanks for having me back.
We've seen the stories of parents leaving kids in their cars. Now, I'm sure you've treated kids that have been pulled from a hot car. First of all, maybe not the best strategy. Second of all, any other tips?
Yeah, these are always sad cases. We always see one or two in the ICU per year. About 40% of the time, a parent has said that they forgot that their kid was in the back seat, and so a safety plan is always important. If your kid doesn't make it to daycare or school, make sure a parent is called and notified. About 20% of the time, a parent reports that a child was playing in an unattended vehicle. So the key there is to keep keys out of reach and make sure you teach your children that vehicles aren't an area for play. And something that I do personally is I always keep my wallet in the back seat every single time. And so when I leave my car, it forces me to go to the back seat, get my wallet, and just take a look at the surroundings in the back.
That's pretty good. I'd have to remember I had my wall in the back seat, but eventually I would get back there when I tried to do. All right, so when it's hot, you know, we'd say, well, let's keep our kids inside, but that's not always the best plan. So what can we do to protect kids if they want to go spend some time outside?
Yeah, it's a hot start to the summer right now, and you know, if it's unavoidable and you have to have your kid to go outside, there's a few things you can do. Number one, number two, number three is hydration, hydration, hydration. Make sure that your kid is equipped with non-caffeinated beverages to really stay hydrated. Pedialyte's great. Number two is have very loose clothing and light colored clothing. It's better than tight or dark colored clothing. So if they have to be out, make sure it's loose and light colored. And then lastly, if they have to be outside, try to schedule it while trying to avoid peak summer hours in the summer heat. And so usually between 1 to 5 p.m. is peak heatness. And so if you could schedule things around that is always beneficial to the kids. And so,
okay, is that a new term you've invented? Peak heatness. I like that. That's pretty good. I think you're saying the blazing sun and the highest temperature and the humidity of the afternoon. Man, those things combine to be some pretty powerful things. At your point, if you don't think about hydrating very well, or if you're not feeling very good, let's say, and let's say if you have the flu or something, and you're trying to go outside, that is like a danger zone.
100%. It's tough, and we've already seen some cases, and these prevention tips are always helpful to keep kids protected.
All right, well, thank you, sir. I really appreciate you coming down this morning. Have a great day.
You too.
All right, joining me today are two co-principal investigators to the study that we've been talking a little bit about. Dr. Christy Beffert. I didn't do it right, Dr. Christy Beffert. You know, I rehearse these last names before we get on the stage, right? But I do it every single day. And inevitably, something pops out of my mouth that was not the rehearsed plan. All right, Dr. Christy Beffert is a behavioral scientist researching obesity treatment and interventions, especially in rural areas. Dr. Ann Davis is a clinical psychologist and director of the Center for Children's Healthy Lifestyles and Nutrition. I think you do a little work both here and at Children's too, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
That's a big darn deal. Mm-hmm. And together, they're leading the study called I Am Healthy Parents First. Okay, did I say that right?
Yes.
I Am Healthy Parents First?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Glad you guys are both here. Thank you for being here.
Yep.
All right, in a few minutes, we'll hear from Andy Fincham and her 11-year-old son, Wake. They're going to join us from their home in Beloit, a town in north central Kansas, about a 3-hour drive west of Kansas City. I'm looking forward to learning and hearing about their experiences. Dr. Beffert, start us off with a little bit of context. When we say childhood obesity, and then we use the word epidemic, is epidemic a fair term?
Epidemic is a fair term. It's actually been called that since about the mid-90s, and it's because of a tripling of a diagnosis of obesity, which is a certain body mass index, from the mid-70s to the mid-90s, and it's continued to just gradually increase on a yearly basis since then. So it simply means it's widespread.
But why? Why did it increase in the 70s to then? What changed?
Well, we think it has a lot to do with the food environment and the built environment. So food environment, overabundance of food; built environment, a lot of automation of things and less physical activity. So that was sort of the beginnings of it, and then our physiology interacts with that, and it's kind of a perfect storm.
Yeah, it has been. It's been a challenge. Now today, we're going to hone in a little bit on rural health care. So why focus on people in rural areas?
So people in rural areas have access barriers to health care, and they also have higher rates of overweight or a diagnosis of obesity. And many times people don't realize that. They think of rural Americans as out on the farm or out doing manual labor, but the reality is that those occupations have largely been centralized, and fewer people are moving, but they're still eating similarly. And so there's just a real need, and it's been under-recognized and underfunded, and so I think the tide has turned, and there's more programs available now for rural Americans.
Okay, so I'm just going to lead to a little bit of my speculation here. So maybe not quite as active. Food choices, there's an abundance sometimes of food. And then the people who try to sell us food know that that combination of salt and fat is and sugar, pretty powerful, and they keep giving us more foods like that. Mm-hmm. Is that part of the story?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Dr. Ann Davis, childhood obesity, we've heard not a new problem, but a worsening problem. Is there any prior research showing us an effective way to help prevent childhood obesity?
Thankfully, there has been research going on in pediatric obesity, again, since about the 1970s. The majority of the studies were reviewed recently by the United States Preventive Services Task Force, which is a mouthful.
But a lot of words.
Yeah.
I stumble over those.
Yeah, I have to say them a lot. But their recommendation suggests that pediatric obesity treatment programs that have at least 26 contact hours are significantly more likely to be effective.
Okay, tell me what that means, 26 contact hours.
So it means families have to invest a great deal of time and effort in these programs. There's no quick fix. So over a 6-month period, they come to group-based programs or individual-based programs week after week after week, and that kind of commitment is what leads to meaningful change.
So we need to differentiate a little bit. There's this I Am Healthy program, which you're going to tell us about, and then I Am Healthy Parents First. So talk to us a little bit about what that is and what's the difference?
Sure. So I Am Healthy is designed for rural families. It's a remotely delivered pediatric obesity intervention. We have been doing that program since about 2006. It's always included parents because parents are a key to child health improvement, of course.
Yep.
So we've included the parents, but we haven't really focused on the parent weight status or the parent health behavior change. And our research shows that the majority of children who participate in our programs have parents who also need to improve their health habits.
Yeah.
So I was excited to partner with Dr. Beffert on this newest study.
Well, that is pretty darn cool. So now I Am Healthy Parents First is a randomized controlled trial, which means there's going to be a control group and a treatment group. Dr. Beffert, tell us about how did you develop a control and treatment group in this study?
Yeah, so we are studying the implementation of this program, but the scientific question that we're asking is, does it make a difference in terms of the healthy lifestyle changes and the weight status of the parent and the child if you treat the parent first for their own obesity or weight status?
Okay.
So we have a 3-month adult program. The kids aren't there. It's just focused on the parent, typically the mom. And it's an intensive 12-week weekly visits. They go through a lot of behavior change. The control arm is just for that 12-week period. So those parents just get a newsletter in the mail. So all the families get an intensive family-based program, but only half of them get the parent-only part first.
Oh, that's pretty cool. So basically, the theory kind of feels like it is, we got to teach the parents to teach the kids.
Yes.
And if they're not going to, then the kids won't do it either.
Yeah, and the teaching is not just teaching; it's also observing. So we want the kids to observe their parents, and there to be reciprocity between what the parents are doing, what the kids are doing. The kids also encourage the parents.
Okay.
So it goes both ways.
All right. How old do the kids have to be in?
6 to 11.
All right. So now, let's turn to Mandy and Wake Fincham in Beloit. First of all, Mandy Wake, did I say the last name correctly?
Yes.
Awesome. See, I am educable. Mandy, how did you hear about I Am Healthy and why did you sign up for it?
Yeah, we got a letter in the mail from our local clinic, and I think we actually got a couple of them within a couple of months. And I think I actually got a letter home from our son's school in his book bag, 1 or 2. And then I think I told the clinic that I was interested, and then someone called me and kind of had an hour-long interview of the program and to see if we're still interested, and we were. So a couple different avenues.
Awesome. So a little communication, make sure people knew it was out there. Now, it started with group sessions just for parents. Tell us a little bit about those sessions. What were they like? What did you learn from them? How mean were the people that were in them? Were they nice? You know, the nuts and bolts.
Yeah, so it was intensive. It was meeting every single week. We got emails with a lot of information that we were to read every single week. Our meetings were an hour long, and there was a roughly 12 people in the meeting, and they were local people. They were moms I knew in Beloit. So it was kind of neat to kind of go through it together and know them and kind of have a group that we could support. And the instructors were amazing. They met us where we were, which so kind of dumbing down the information for us. But it was a really supportive, great group, and I think we all learned a lot.
Oh, that's awesome. Now, I understand that now nutrition and exercise have become part of your daily conversations with Wake. So tell us a little bit about what those conversations are like.
Yeah, we both are wearing the garments that were given to us, and we have a talk every day about who has the most steps. Usually Wake beats me, but every once in a while I get them. We talk about, they have red, yellow, and green foods, and we talk almost every day looking at nutrition labels, and Wake likes to point out if I'm eating a red food or not, and we try to
Good job, Wake.
both getting we both try to work on getting green foods together, and we've kind of had kind of a bonding experience going to this grocery store together and picking out fruits and vegetables that we've never tried before. So we've tried dragon fruit, we've tried mangoes, papaya. Wake has tried asparagus, Brussels sprouts, squash. And some of them we liked and some we didn't like, but it's kind of fun to try that. He also picked out leeks, which is kind of a random vegetable, not really one you just bite into, but so yeah, it's definitely part of our everyday conversation now.
So Wake, first of all, mangoes are awesome. Put a mango on a grill and grill it, and it completely changes flavor. This is the best. So now Wake, tell me about it. What have you been learning in these I Am Healthy classes?
I learned about like the red, yellow, and green foods, and I try to get more green foods than I do red foods. And
Serving size.
Yeah, serving size.
Okay, so that's really good. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
And
Uh-oh, we're frozen.
we're frozen.
Wait, can I ask you a question? So first of all, can I say, I'm impressed you eat vegetables because my mother used to try to hide my vegetables in the applesauce so that I would eat them. And I always found them when I started to chew, apparently. But you're actually doing this. This is really cool. Are you having fun?
Yeah, a lot of fun.
We're still frozen.
I like my fruits more than my vegetables, but some vegetables are good, like corn on the cob. Those are really good.
Yeah, I'm with you about that fruit vegetable thing. But Wake, do you get to say to your mom, you're eating a red food, I'm eating a green food, and do you enjoy that?
Yeah.
I would too if I was your
You definitely like to point it out.
Wake, do you get more steps than your mom?
Yeah, most
So
of the
really-
time.
Wake, what I'm hearing is that in this program, you get an A and your mom may get a B. Is that right? Is that how the grades fall here?
Yeah, a B minus.
Okay, good. I got you. That's excellent. Well, you guys are awesome. This is so good. So just a quick plug. If a parent, clinic, or school wants to learn more about the I Am Healthy Parents First, we're going to put the website and contact info on the screen. So now, Dr. Bedford, if someone contacts the study team, what can they expect?
They can expect a text back and a phone call back. Like Mandy said, we have a team that responds to those contacts very promptly, and they'll call and tell you all about it and see if you're interested. And if you're interested, they'll screen you for the study.
Now, Mandy and Wake, is the program helping? Is it working for you?
It's helping a lot for us.
Yeah, Wake is just really getting serious about sports, and he's really wanting to increase his athletic ability and eating well, and just getting the extra movement in is huge for that, and he's realizing that, and I think he'll take that into the future as he gets into junior high and high school. Sports is really important to him, and he can see how eating well kind of contributes to being a better athlete.
I'll tell you, just here's a little bit of insight. I'm 64. I've been trying to eat well and exercise most of my life, and it does make a huge difference. And the older you get, the more important I think it can be. So, Dr. Davis, not every child is as engaged and receptive and cool as Wake is. So what's your advice to parents who know what's right for their kids, but will struggle to get their kids on board and maybe struggle to get themselves on board?
Yeah, that's a lot of what Dr. Befford and I do as psychologists. So a lot of us know what we should do, but it's actually the doing of it that's very hard. So in I Am Healthy Parents First, we focus on nutrition, activity, and then a topic called behavior modification or parent training. So we give parents a lot of tools that they can use on a day-to-day basis to join with their kids in this journey, just like you saw in Mandy and Wake, which is so fun to see, by the way.
It is great to see, and it means that Wake gets to control his mom, which if you're a kid, is there a better thing going on? What a great program, teaching you how to do a little mom control. All right, so now we're going to have more to discuss, and if you want to be part of that discussion, send us your questions. The links are here on your screen with YouTube, Facebook, or email, the Medical News Network. Okay, now this is normally where we would talk with Dr. Dana Hawkinson, but Doc Hawk has earned some good time off this week, and we're going to catch up with him next week. All right, now the stigma surrounding obesity is starting to change because historically we've said that was a choice, you don't need to do that, and you're doing it to yourself, and it's your own fault. But some people still think of excess weight as a personal failure, even though it's clearly a disease. The logic, though, is if your child's overweight, you've done something wrong as a parent. Dr. Befford, talk to us about that way of thinking and how maybe it's beginning to really change.
Yeah, it is beginning. Well, not beginning. I would say that the tide has turned. In 2013, the American Medical Association came out with a statement that said obesity is a chronic disease, which made it the #1 chronic disease in the country.
Yes.
And there was some backlash against that at the time. It was on the front page of a lot of newspapers. And it sort of kind of creeped along for a few years in terms of people's thinking about this. And I'd say in the last 4 or 5 years, especially as the more options have come out with medications and we understand the physiology better and what can happen over prolonged periods of time of, discrepant energy balance, meaning how much is coming in versus out, is that your body adapts and it turns into a chronic disease. So it's something that tons of people battle on a daily basis. It's extremely difficult, and we constantly talk to people about this is not a willpower issue, but you have to see what you have control over, what you don't have control over. We try to help them with the things that they do have control over, and also address it in a way that doesn't reinforce any kind of stigma or shame about it.
So it's interesting to think about it like that, because some people say, well, gosh, it's a personal choice, and yet, in some neighborhoods where there are food deserts, or in rural areas where there can be a food desert, you turn to the things that are easy and most accessible. The food service industry is pretty smart, man. They put foods that that stimulate those. I want to eat that potato chip. I want to eat that piece of candy pretty well. Sometimes it's hard to get to the healthy food, so you really got to retrain how you think.
Yes, absolutely. And the food industry used to market based on portion size. And then some documentaries came out. I don't know if you guys remember that. Documentaries came out.
Super Size Me.
Yeah, Super Size Me, that really hit that hard, and then they kind of stopped using that strategy as much, although it's still out there. But yeah, the hyper-palatable foods are things that just taste really good and have that addictive qualities.
So I just have to ask you guys, does the study show that this works? Is it making a difference, or can you say?
It's too early. We're so excited to have Mandy and Wake and other families participating, but we need more families. So we'll be recruiting for the study for at least the next year.
So Mandy, Wake, I heard from you. You felt like this helped a lot. Mandy, what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it started a conversation in our family, and a lot of the behavior changes. I think, they talked about goal setting and and things that could be a big part of your life, and not just, what you're going to be eating that day or what you're going to be doing for exercise. So I think it honestly really helped the whole family.
And Mandy, just to say out loud, based on what we're hearing from Wake, it sounds like you have to do a little more homework because you got to get your grade up a little bit more. I mean, didn't he give you a B-? Isn't that what he said? It's tough, man.
Yeah.
It's tough.
He likes to point out everything.
That's awesome. Okay, there are also shifting attitudes. There are also some shifting attitudes around the way we think about food. And sometimes we think some food is good for you, some other food is bad for you. Now, I even found that trap a little bit earlier here. I did avoid the use of the word junk food because I knew that was in the script, but maybe we should stop using good, bad, or even junk food. Dr. Davis, talk to us why that is.
Well, you heard Mandy and Wake talk about red, yellow, and green foods. So we have definitions that kids as young as 5 can understand whether a food is a red food, excuse me, which is a food that you should stop and think before you eat that food. And then a yellow food is a caution food, or a food that we want to eat, but that we need to be cautious about number of servings per day and serving size. And then green foods are go foods. You can eat as much as you want, as often as you want. That's what we teach the kids. And when these types of diets were originally formed, kids were eating around 4 red foods per week. Now our kids that are entering the study are eating around 8 red foods per day.
Yeah. Oh my.
So it's these hyperpalatable foods that Dr. Beffert was talking about are just much more prevalent, and there's a lot more of them. So that's an easy target. It's not that you shouldn't eat the red foods. You just want to be aware that you're eating red foods. Because again, just like Mandy and Wake talked about, sometimes red foods sneak in, and we don't even know that it's a red food. It might be marketed as low calorie or healthy for you in some way, but it still categorizes as a red food. So we just want to be aware of what we're eating.
Okay, so here's a really important question. Dark chocolate, red, yellow, green. What do we follow there? With cashew butter. I'm just it's cashew butter.
Okay, well, we would have to look at the label, Dr. Stites, if we really want to know. My bet is that it's probably a red food, which means you can eat it. You just want to be cautious. I got some here. I'm going to show you the label. We're going to go after and look at that just after this program. Okay, well, we know many of you have questions, so we're going to head to Studio B with Alexis. Alexis, are you a red, yellow, or green eater?
I eat the whole rainbow, Dr.
Awesome.
Stites.
Okay, well,
it's
about how much you eat.
I do have a recommendation, though, for Mandy and Wake, because I love that you try different fruits, exotic fruits. Have you tried tuna fruit, or it's the prickly pear?
No.
You have to try it.
I don't even know what that is. Tuna
My
fruit
son
sounds
is
like
all
something
into the
I catch
prickly
out of the
pear.
ocean. Go ahead.
Tuna fruit. You got to try that. It's so good.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a question from Marcia. Marcia asks, do you have any tips for parents and families that may have already fallen into a pattern of stigmatizing the person who may be overweight in their family, even though they're unintentionally stigmatizing the person? And how can a parent, this is a two-part question, how can a parent begin over with their child?
Great questions. Okay, guys, who's up?
Yeah, the way I try to start those conversations is by saying we all have things we need to work on. So whatever it may be, none of us are perfect. And so it's starting with every person in the family having a challenging goal to work on, whether it's around healthy lifestyles or going to bed on time or doing their homework or whatever. Getting everyone working on some sort of goal can help you to form a team, just like you saw in Mandy and Wake. They're kind of challenging each other and encouraging each other. So that's one way to join with your kids on a journey to self-improvement.
I love that.
Yeah, and similar, we get that question. We could do these programs in groups, and sometimes the health coach who's working with the group has a personal experience battling weight, and sometimes they don't. And sometimes the participants will ask, what about you? It's kind of like, is this an us versus them? And, I always encourage them to be very honest. If they haven't battled it personally, then they can talk about, hey, I've got things too. Like, none of us are perfect. And, we all have big room for improvement in terms of our health behaviors.
All right.
Stu has a question. Stu wants to know if the I Am Healthy study is tracking BMI alone, and how much emphasis do you put on BMI?
We are tracking BMI as one of our outcomes, but we also very much care about nutrition. We track their nutrition, we track physical activity, we also track quality of life and family functioning. So there's a variety of outcomes, and I think you heard from Mandy and Wake how this is impacting their family. So we really take a big picture view of the importance of this and the kind of trickle down benefits.
Hey, Mandy, Wake, do you guys go to the grocery store together?
We do.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Cool. Now, do you guys have separate shopping baskets, or do you try and use the same shopping basket? Is it separate but equal? How do we do that?
We use the same, but honestly, before this program, he didn't go too often, and he would just, bypass the fruit and vegetables and go somewhere else. But now we stay in that area a long time and look at things and decide what new thing we're going to try this week. And I have him pick out things that he will eat. So definitely has changed the way we shop.
I'm with you. Go ahead.
Sometimes we get new fruits that we haven't tried, and we put it in a fruit bowl with some other fruits that we do like.
So it kind of lasts a few days, and we can just grab it.
I love
and he helps
that.
me chop it and wash it, and yeah, which he never did before.
Wake, you are like the perfect student. A+, not an A, Wake. A+. Alexis.
Mandy seems to have cracked the code on how to get our sons that are growing up to want to spend more time with us as a mom of a teenager.
Sons and daughters. Let's not be exclusive here. Let's not leave anybody out.
I just love that you guys do so much together and you shop together, which leads me into Marie's question. Marie wants to ask Wake. Wake, what activity do you love doing most with your mom that maybe you didn't do before this study, in addition to shopping, grocery shopping?
Do
you cook together?
We shop together.
Okay.
Exercises for I Am Healthy.
Yeah, when some Saturday mornings, the I Am Healthy program has exercises, like as a group that we do, and we do it, and it's always fun, and we didn't do that before.
Yeah, it kind of caters to family, like kids and parents, and we do scavenger hunts and dance and partner exercises. So that's really fun to work out with him and stay active. That caters to the child.
What a great side effect of the study. This is beautiful.
No, this is the best.
It's just great. Georgianne writes, this is an excellent topic and program. Parents and kids helping each other. Thanks to all involved. And then Jeremy has a nuanced question. Jeremy wants to know, how do you find the balance between not beating yourself up for not being in the physical state you wish you were in, wish you should have for your health, versus leaning too far into the idea of I'm fine the way I am and I'm happy with my body? So how do you balance those two?
That's a darn good question.
That's a good one. I think the thing I thought about with that question was picking small goals that you can sustain and be successful with. So we always tell parents we want parents to pick a goal for their kids where the kids can be successful about 7 out of 10 times, because that builds your momentum to then move to a harder goal and a harder goal. So I think setting appropriate goals would be something I'd start with.
You know, I was just going to say, I think it's about making sure that you use the motivation to make a change as the way to help drive your change, but work with your professionals to figure out what's the change you want to target. You don't want to overdo that change.
Yeah, we call that acceptance and commitment. So you do both at the same time. You accept where you are, and you commit to those, goals and small changes that you want to start.
Okay, Dr. Beffert, I understand there's been one more question for you.
One more question for Dr. Beffert. Marcia wants to know, Marcia writes, Dr. Beffert's with the Cancer Center, so how did she get involved with this program? And what motivated Dr. Beffert to get involved in public health? How does it relate to her work with cancer?
So obesity is the second leading cause of cancer. So I work with adults and parents across the state to try to help them battle this. And my role in the Cancer Center is largely focused around our initiatives in preventing and treating obesity.
All right, this has been a great discussion. I'm really grateful for all of our guests for being here. Not only are our two good folks here, but Mandy and Wake, awesome. I want to hear some final thoughts before we go. Mandy, I'm going to start with you. Final thought.
We're very thankful that we have the KU Medical Center and that they want to choose to work with rural areas. I think sometimes you get to Western Kansas and we kind of get forgotten, but we're so thankful for this. I know that other participants in Beloit are also thankful. I think Wakefield and I's bond has grown, and we get to have conversations around health that will lead us through our whole lives.
That's great, and then you're so right. What we do need to do more in rural America. Wake or Wakefield, final thought.
I think this has helped us a lot with the stoplight a lot, because the reds, yeah, you don't really want to have much of them. The yellows you want to have sometimes, and the greens you want to have all the time. And that has helped us a lot with going to the store together and bonding and getting green foods, more green foods at the store than we get red foods.
Yeah, that's a good, go ahead.
Exercise. We exercise a lot more.
And Wake, I meant to ask you, what's your favorite sport? Your mom mentioned that's really something important to you. I love sports. What's your favorite sport?
Wrestling is my favorite.
Awesome. And are you a Kansas City Chiefs fan?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, Wake, clearly it's an A++ for you, buddy. All right. Dr. Davis.
Final thoughts, let's see. I guess I would say the journey to having a healthy lifestyle starts early. So it's really fun to get to work with families like Mandy and Wake and, help them to, continue their journey to live a healthy lifestyle. So I'm delighted to work with rural families. It's been my passion, and it's a lot of fun.
Dr. Beffert.
I just want to encourage parents. This is not easy. It takes more time. Those hyperpalatable foods are so easy to grab and go. It takes more time, more thought, more energy to focus on this. And I just want to encourage parents. I know how busy everyone is. We're all busy. It's one of the downsides of today's culture, but it's worth the time, and it's worth the effort that you put in for your whole family, not just yourself.
Mozzarella cheese, red, yellow, green.
It's probably going to be a red, Dr. Stites.
God, guys. All right, I got it. Okay, here's the truth. Actually, I shop around the corner, the outside of the grocery store, but every now and then you splurge and get some good stuff.
Of course, yes. Nothing is off limits. It's just all about
tofu.
Tofu is the yellow for sure.
Not even green.
Tofu.
Oh my God.
No. Fruits and vegetables.
All right. Well, this has been a great program. I want to say thanks to all of our guests, and thanks for having a little bit of fun as we take on this topic. To be healthy, you got to be healthy, right? And at the end of the day, you've heard the thing, we are what we eat, but more than that, we are how we approach our lives. And when I'm in the clinic with my patients, and they say, how can I feel better? I'm like, you got to be healthier. And the way to be healthier is you got to address it in every part of your life, not just in one part. And sometimes that's hard because we've got habits that we like dark chocolate. But at the end of the day, if you really want to be healthy, you got to be healthy. All right, thanks again to all of our guests and to our audience. Remember, faith, hope, and science, that's the combination to better health. We'll talk to you soon.
Subscribe to our morning medical update and Open Mics with Dr. Stites podcasts. Now, everywhere podcasts are available.